Yeah, as I was saying, I was tweeting a bit passionately today. I mean, of course, I understand why. Obviously, they can't be played, but I think I was my stance today was just coming from a more passionate side. I'm thinking that morally, is it the right decision? I'm thinking a lot of times a lot of young players can make a name for themselves after one big performance. It happens every single time because that's when you really start to get people noticing you a bit more. And I was thinking that Mason Mount playing against us, it's kind of like written in the stars for him to be the guy that could finally be the guy to play consistently in the first team for us. I think the guy's qualities and his dimensions. I mean, let's be serious. If he was part of the squad now, he's the only midfield player that you could see getting us goals from midfield. And I think
Mhm.
that
Yep.
his ability where, he's able to play in the half space and now he's playing as a number eight for Lampard, I think this guy's going to be phenomenal. To have that type of midfield player that's able to, uh, you know, control the ball like a winger as well is kind of rare. And the guy scores from set pieces. He takes them as well. Outside the box finishes. I don't know. I'm just thinking that this was really the night for him to really show what he could do, what he's about. Let's be serious. Sarri hasn't seen him just yet. When he had the chance to be with him during pre-season, found out afterwards that the club said, when Sarri was coming, maybe you should look for another loan club. It's not your time just yet. After being promised to that you were going to get a pre-season, and I don't know. I don't know. What's everyone's thoughts? I mean, do you sympathise a bit, or no one really cares?
Well, I can only speak for myself, but when we're talking about Mason Mount, I always care. But yeah, I mean, I understand your thought about this would have been a great opportunity for him to show Chelsea in person just how damn good he is. I mean, I get it. It is written in the stars, right? He almost, no, I don't know, maybe the perfect game would be he has a hat trick, but Chelsea win 4-3. I don't know. But nonetheless, if Chelsea need to see him in person in order
Yeah,
to give him a
exactly.
chance, well, then something is dreadfully wrong with what they do in their front office. I get it, Nini, and it's funny that I was even arguing against you because I mean I am all for Mason Mount getting every opportunity to play, every opportunity to show Chelsea just how damn good he is. However, I really do think about this in two positive ways beyond him just not playing, and it sucks he can't profile himself against Chelsea. One, I think him not playing against Chelsea, or actually, rather, if he had played and did well, I still think him having Frank Lampard consistently praising him, consistently saying all of these wonderful things about him is still more impactful than if he had one good game against Chelsea. Because maybe Chelsea don't know how to properly treat their loanees that just go anywhere. But if Frank Lampard is saying things like he already said about, oh, I don't even want to think about losing Mason. I'm going to focus on this year, which he said at the beginning of the year. He's like, I don't even want to think about losing Mason Mount. Well, then come on, Chelsea, wake up and smell the coffee. You got to understand that this guy is clearly above the championship level. Frank Lampard is pretty much telling you without telling you, you should be favoring this kid. This kid is good enough. If you trust me, Frank Lampard, then you should trust me that Mason Mount's good enough. And the other thing I think of is, sure, it is policy that they don't really allow their loanees to play ever against them unless, I mean, the rules usually just state that they can't unless the rules say that they can, whatever. But the fact is, they definitely watched him against Manchester United. I got to believe Sarri, with a cigarette in his mouth, watched him as well. So he was impressive in that game. He was playing against Jose Mourinho. Right now, anything that's going on with United gets a lot of eyes because there's so much drama. Mason Mount more than showed out for that game. Easily could have scored the game-winning goal, but it was a good save. And then they obviously put it in, and then it went to extra time. But he played really damn well. And honestly, I think Chelsea's saying, no, we don't want him playing, is just saying we want to go farther in this competition. Mason Mount might ruin our chances of going farther in this competition. And this is really glass half full on my part. So I feel sick saying this because I'm normally not so positive. However, one theory might be Sarri knows that this cup is really the best chance for Hudson-Odoi and Ampadu to get some playing time. Maybe not Ampadu if he leaves in January, but maybe he's saying, I don't want to take any chance. It's not really him, but maybe they're saying we don't want to take any chances of getting kicked out in this tournament because this tournament right now, maybe next to Europa, is their best chance to profile. So I don't know. Maybe that's two glass half full.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wish that mentality was kind of lost. I blame managers like Mourinho and Conte, but you know, maybe it's because as I was a kid, I saw what Chelsea were like in their prime. So, I can't forget that so easily. But I remember that sense of confidence and arrogance I used to feel, knowing that we were just going to get the 3 points no matter what. And I'm looking forward to us getting back to that state as fans, because I don't like hearing people worrying about teams like Derby in the Championship. And this is why I blame Mourinho and Conte for that type of mentality as well. But I don't know. I think Mason Mount playing in front of Sarri at Stamford Bridge. I mean, that could have been a fantastic moment for him. And I think it's like a sign of intent from the club, saying that, you know what, we actually are serious about your future and your development. We're going to allow you to do this because we think personally that it's going to do you wonders, and you can really show how far you've developed. And I'm kind of disappointed that the club have actually looked at them instead as, potentially jeopardising what they do in the tournament. And I don't know if is it right for a parent club to have that type of approach? I mean, I think I read on Twitter too once. I think that when Ray Wilkins took over a game as an interim manager, I think that we allowed Lenny Pidgley and Michael Mancian to play against Watford. Is that correct? Does anyone know or remember? We gave them permission. Yeah, we gave them permission to play against us. When, I don't know. That's what I saw on Twitter. But yeah, I mean, Joe, what are you thinking? I mean, do you think that this was a great opportunity lost for Mason Mount, or do you think that regardless of him playing or not, it's not going to affect anything?
I mean, I think one of the interesting things, being sort of fortunate to speak to some people at the club, and someone whose opinion I rate incredibly highly once told me that they only feel that Chelsea academy players will get a completely fair shake if someone like John Terry, Frank Lampard, or Jody Morris, Joe Edds, etc., was on the Chelsea bench, and not necessarily as manager, but in a number 2 assistant manager capacity or whatever. I think that was something that they were very, very adamant about. And to me, I mean, I think Mason Mount is potentially like a generational English talent. So if we put him to side for 1 second, like the development of Fikayo Tomori under Lampard and Morris, Tomori, who I've kind of always felt at Chelsea is one of the most talented defenders I've seen at Chelsea's kind of youth team level. And this is a guy who reminds me so much of William Gallas in that he is a fantastic fullback, but he's also an absolutely fantastic centre-back. He has that skill set and an ability to play pretty much anywhere across a back 4, back 5, back 3, whatever you want to say. And I don't think necessarily he's been at clubs who have had that sort of faith in him from a loan perspective. I think he was at Hull, wasn't he, last season? And now he's gone to play at Derby. And I was kind of a little bit, maybe not dubious about the move, but I felt, it was probably a little bit more of maybe a sweetener with Morris and Lampard. But the amount of faith that they've placed in him, the amount of work, obviously, that they want to do, it feels like they're more invested in their development at this point than actually Chelsea are in some of our own youngsters on our books. And if you watch the United game, yes, Mason Mount was incredible, but let's not forget, Fikayo Tomori completely and utterly bossed Romelu Lukaku for that entire game, And this is a kid who very much goes under the radar. So, I mean, in terms of their opportunity, yes, I mean, I think personally that, if you send a player on loan, you're saying, we don't consider you to be part of our current team, so they should be able to play against the parent club. And, I don't care if that's a Premier League fixture or kind of, otherwise in a cup game. So for me, that is something that doesn't necessarily sit well. I think that they should be able to play, but I think probably the most important thing, and a lot of people were, and I mean it, like a really significant amount of people were very critical of Mount's loan to Derby to begin with. But the more that I see how well he's playing, but also Tomori, I'm thinking that they're actually probably the kind of perfect, the sort of perfect scenario for them, because they have two really sort of Chelsea guys who are completely invested in developing them. They're not seeing them as a lone guy who either hits the ground running or just becomes kind of squad filler, which has happened to a lot of Chelsea players in the Championship. So I think that their development is actually just really boosted by the fact that they're surrounded by Lampard and Morris, and there's a lot of sort of Chelsea connections there, and I think there is an investment in them as players and as people to develop them. So, I don't think it's necessarily going to be a limiting factor that they can't play against us. I would love to have seen them play, particularly if we had, let's say, our second string out against Derby, and seeing Mason Mount run rings around Fabregas would have been absolutely hilarious for my own personal vendetta against Cesc. But I kind of would love to see some of the faith, particularly that Lampard and Morris have shown in these players, replicated a bit more in the Chelsea kind of system itself. Because it's really, I wouldn't say it's upsetting or whatever, but I mean it's very poignant that that Derby have given them a platform to kind of play and develop. It's something which unless we miraculously change how we operate as a club, is very unlikely to be given to Mount or to Tomori. And I think Mount is an exceptional player. I think the fact that he's working on the Lampard, and let's not forget Jody Morris as a teenager was an incredible central midfielder at Chelsea. He was considered. You listen to guys like Rio Ferdinand talk about him. He was the player that they thought would be like the superstar, but for a number of reasons that never really transpired. But Morris and Lampard are two of the best kind of midfield mentors you could possibly ask of a young player. So, I think that he's probably the one that I think should, get opportunities, even if he's playing badly, even if it's kind of you're sort of manufacturing them a little bit kind of artificially for him. But whether that will happen, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, to your kind of original point, I do think that they should be able to play. I'm not kind of morally against it to a certain degree, but I think if you're saying that that they're not part of the squad, then they should be part of Derby's squad and they should be able to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's only in this country, I think, that they have these type of agreements where lonely players can't play against their parent club. But
Courtois played against us in the Champions League, didn't he, at Atletico?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm looking at Mason Mount in the future. I'm just thinking realistically. I mean, there's probably a high probability that Kovacic will be signed permanently. The way he's talking about the club, getting along with the squad as well. Does he necessarily want to go back to Real Madrid? I'm not too sure. Let's be serious. And it's looking like Ross Barkley, Sarri really likes him for some reason. Of course, Sarri has his opinions, but yeah, I'm just thinking realistically, Mason isn't going to get a chance unless that means Ruben's going to go. And if Mason Mount's just going to replicate the Ruben role as being a backup, what's really the point of him coming back? And I think realistically, he must be getting another loan move for next season. I can't imagine that Chelsea are going to take what he's been doing at Derby too seriously and give him significant minutes.
Well, I mean, if I could just jump in, because I can't help myself when we're talking about Mason Mount, but yeah, I mean, but this is, everybody on Twitter has been asking me, but Alex, there's Kovacic, there's Barkley, there's Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I understand that, but we're right now in October. The summer is ways away. So much can happen between now and the summer. Now, that's kind of a cop-out answer. However, if Mason Mount continues to have a good year in the championship, and maybe at least one of those players is out of the picture, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, at least give him a preseason. But the whole thing is I'm so happy. And Joe, you were talking about it, how there were people against the original move to Derby. I was kind of one of them because I thought it was lazy on Chelsea's part. I thought they were just saying, we have Frank Lampard and Jody Morris over there. You can just go over there. But actually, really, Derby right now is what Vitesse should have been, or what the academy should have been. They're treating the youngsters well. Mason Mount has played every single minute possible. So, Nina, you bring up an interesting point. What's going to happen next year if there isn't enough time for Mason Mount on Chelsea, but they have to send him out on another loan? The last thing you want is him going out on a loan where he's not getting the playing time that he's getting at Derby. Because he literally can put in a disaster class, and he's not. I'm just saying he can literally not play well. Lampard's playing him the full 90. He's playing him the full 90, and I love that. I absolutely love that. So Chelsea really need to think about this long and hard. Do they want to take a risk and send him out on another loan, even if it's a better league where there's no guarantee that he actually will get the same amount of playing time? Now, I'd like to believe he will, just because his talent will demand that playing time. But they're in a sticky situation in terms of they need to really think long and hard about where he goes next year. You say, Kovacic might be close to being permanent, the way things are trending. Okay. But when we really look at all the players, and I love Mateo Kovacic, he's my favorite out of Kovacic, Loftus-Cheek, and Barkley. But when we look at all of those midfielders, Mount included, Mount's the best fit. Mount is the best fit. He's the one you can project the most on, as much as Kovacic can still even get better. Mount is the one you can project the most on, and he's a goal-scoring midfielder. I think he'd be great for that left center mid spot, and probably he'll play a little bit more advanced, knowing what he likes to do. But I'm staying hopeful that Jody Morris and Frank Lampard are going to make it known that you can't screw this one up, Chelsea. You can't screw this one up. So the question I would pose almost back to you guys is, if Mason Mount doesn't have a spot at Chelsea, meaning he just doesn't have enough time next year at Chelsea, would you rather keep him at Derby, even though it's certainly below his level, than take a risk of sending him somewhere else?
I mean, I was actually thinking about Derby. I mean, there's a massive chance they are going to get a promotion this season. If they're in the Premier League, working under Lampard again, maybe. I'm guessing with someone like Lampard, with his connections in the industry, I'm sure that if Derby did to get promoted, they'd be able to sign a lot of good players. But I think if Derby do get promoted, now I definitely think he should spend another year there, playing in a system he's very familiar in, with a manager that wants him to excel. I think normally, the players that are fortunate enough to play in their best positions and have that luck of having a system that complements how they play, they're the ones that end up getting the praise and recognition, because you can see them at their best light. So yeah, I think Mason Mount makes sense there.
Yeah, Nini, I would just agree. If you don't have a spot for Mason Mount on Chelsea next year, keep him by Frank Lampard. That's all I care about. I don't care if it's demeaning how good Mason Mount is. Even if they don't get promoted, I'm honestly saying keep him with Frank Lampard, because once it is time for Chelsea to think about Mason Mount, if he's next to Frank Lampard, in my opinion, it gives him the best chance. Just by what Frank Lampard can say about him, but also knowing Chelsea, and we all love Sarri now, but who knows how long Maurizio Sarri will be at Stamford Bridge. What about if Frank Lampard becomes a manager option? Mason Mount's playing, baby. He is absolutely playing if Frank Lampard is the next manager of Chelsea.
Exactly. What about you, Sofian? How are you feeling? Do you think that but it makes sense for Mason Mount to fight for a place at Chelsea next season, or loan move?
I think that it's going to be a loan, simply based on the fact that if Chelsea didn't care about what he did at Vitesse, I don't think they will care about what he's doing at Derby. I think that when you look at Lewis Bakker, for example, I think that he won for Vitesse the first cup for a while. I don't know how many years, and he was the best goal scorer in the cup. And at the end of the day, didn't change anything for him. So I think he's going on loan again. I'm not sure about him staying again at Derby if they are in championship again, because for me the worry is also on the fact that if you stay too long in the championship, you become a championship player. I think that look at Piazon, for example, Callas, they are actually championship player. That's what they are, and they used to have some talent. I mean, not necessarily that I saw Callas as a starter at Chelsea and all that, but he was somehow talented. Now, clearly, he's going to play in the championship for the rest of his career, or I think most of his career. So I don't want to see Mason Mount play for 2 or 3 years in the championship, playing again long balls, playing against, I mean, I want him to be playing in a top 5 league, playing some games in Europe. For me, the worry is really, like I said, if you play too much in the championship, you become a championship player, and I don't want that for him.
Hey, guys, the fix is you guys every Monday just need to tweet hashtag Mason Mount Monday. It will make its rounds. I promise you. We together will make Mason Mount a part of Chelsea's team.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It's about time that the fans managed to actually do something. So, yeah,
Let's do it.
Got to make that a thing. But